Come on. Come on. Come on. I feel like this is like when Drew Lock's in the game. You're just like, come on, start working.
Clock run faster.
Start working, please. My brain is freezing. Drew Lock, ladies and gentlemen, does not get the Keanu kiss, but our audience does. That's for sure. All right. Always and forever. Forever and ever and ever. Let's do this thing. 3, 2, 1. Well, the Jets and the Texans played, and the Jets won with Zach Wilson leading the way, 21-14. The final score. Wilson's return season goes 14-24, 145 yards, no touchdowns, 1 INT, 1 rushing touchdown. Bloom. It was also Austin Walter with the other rushing touchdown, so nobody started him. What are they going to do without Michael Carter? I guess Tevin Coleman was their answer, 16 for 67. Elijah Moore, 4 for 46. PPR leagues, it's enough, but not exactly what you wanted. At least you weren't getting quieter with Crowder, 1 for 5. I don't know. And Braxton Berrios, 2 for 47, and nobody started him. So the Jets get the win. Wilson's back, but it's kind of unimpressive, Bloom.
Yeah. Take a nice quiet walk around the block with Crowder. It just, nothing really happened. That was nice. It was a nice walk. Question number 1. Will this Jets pass offense get going with Zach Wilson after he watched Mike White, Josh Johnson, and Joe Flacco all bring it back to life? No. Question number 2. Which running back do we want from the Jets? Really, none of them. But it was Tevin Coleman ahead of Ty Johnson, although Ty Johnson did get a goal to go carry here. Then Zach Wilson got fumbled. Got fumbled. He sacked. He got sacked again. He had an interception. Cecil tried to be Brett Favre. He did a little pitch when he was scrambling. Except I think it was Ty Johnson didn't realize that he was going to do it, so the ball just bounced off his back to a defender. Yeah, because sometimes, Zach, when you take off, they think you're going to run and they block for you. Austin Walter, you mentioned, got a touchdown. Michael Floyd must have liked him. He was a San Francisco undrafted free agent running back, so they bring him in. There was 2 different leverage penalties on field goals that made a difference. One of them on Ross Blacklock that set up the Zach Wilson rushing touchdown. Elijah Moore, part of the passing game going downhill. You weren't very happy to have him in after he was doing great. We do need to give the Texans defense some credit here. It's kind of a win-win, right? Because the Texans, they did a few things to build on, but also the Jets won. So the Texans, this could decide who goes first between these 2 teams in the draft, which could change the destiny of these teams, and the Jets get a comeback win. The defense gets a comeback win. Let's not really give Zach Wilson too much here, and they face a team that, we'll talk about where they're at. At least both of these teams, the Jets and the Eagles, have extra first-round picks next year.
I feel like Brandon Cooks is like dry storable food, Bloom. I don't know how much water you got on hand, but as someone who collects rainwater, because it's not illegal anymore, which is weird. But anyway, you got it. It's not gonna, have you raving about it, but it's gonna get it done. And Cooks got it done, kind of. 3 for 45 and a touch. If you started him, you'll take that. For Tyrod Taylor, who goes 2 touchdowns, 1 INT, 158 yards passing, 30 yards rushing. David Johnson, 39 yards. Rex Burkhead's the lead back, 27 yards. Also 3 for 27 as a receiver. Brevin Jordan, Dynasty GMs need to be aware of Brevin Jordan. Always liked his athletic profile at the U, so keep an eye on that. But nobody started him this week, obviously. It was Brandon Cooks and littering, and that's who you started, and at least you got something, Bloom. Again, dry, storable food.
Exactly. Yeah, in a weevil-proof container. If you're Brandon Cooks, it's been pretty durable. Tyrod Taylor is more like that food that's 80% bad, but you can just trim that little part off that's edible. That was the pitch to the long ball to Cooks. There was also that short touchdown pass. Otherwise, there wasn't really much. They had a decent drive going early, and then John Franklin Myers, he of the 4-year, $55 million extension in the video where he gets choked up talking about his kid, and that's who he plays for. 2 sacks in this one. Just a great performance by this Jets defensive line, harassing this team. Rex Burkhead, David Johnson got banged up. We may have Rex Burkhead uncontested lead back next week against Indianapolis, by the way. But the running game is just not producing anything. One of the touchdowns, again, a long bomb. One came after an interception. And that was basically it. A lot of sacks taken by Tyrod Taylor as the Texans. Hey, they have their first-round pick this year, so it's a good thing because they're in the top 5.
They are in the top 5. Tom Brady's in the top 5 of your heart. That's where he resides. And, well, 38-31 is the final scores. The Buccaneers win over the Indianapolis Colts. They are now 8-3. Indy falls to 6-6 and really good. I don't know. Well, they played and they put up a fight today. Let's talk about the Buccaneers fight, which include lots of Leonard Fournette, 4 touchdowns. He had an Austin Eckler game, right? 4 touchdowns, 100 yards on the ground, 3 rushing touchdowns, 7 catches for 31 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Gronk was back, 7 for 123, which meant Chris Godwin got 4 for 24. Mike Evans got 3 for 16 in this one. Tom Brady, 226, 1 up and 1 down, sacked a couple of times. So this was really Leonard Fournette, we're not going to lose to Carson Wentz. Go do your thing. And Leonard Fournette did that.
This was a really good game, Cease. If this was a game where 2 of the best teams in action today were in this game, it was a shame one of them had to lose. Tampa Bay, both of these teams, a theme in this one, we'll talk about this one a little bit, Cease, because it was such a high-quality game. A theme in this game was these offenses going against tendencies or going against identities because that's what the defenses invited them to do. So in Indianapolis's case, the world famous Eric Stoner, been a little bit since I said that, would say this isn't really a good defense. You know, this is a defense that can put up stats. This is a defense that makes plays, but not really a good defense. And you could see that as Tampa said, we're going to play zone. Okay, well, we're going to run the ball. And we're going to pass to Rob Gronkowski, who's going to dice and slice and mash the middle of that zone. Not as much there for Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Actually, Godwin had a fumble. This game actually started out with 3 stops and the Godwin fumble. The Colts defense, which, middling defense, was doing their thing. Then you saw a turnover. Well, that was a theme in this one for the Colts, sadly. Fournette gets a touchdown. Gronk came alive late in the first half. Wentz fumbled again, and there was a pass interference that set up a touchdown. Ronald Jones even got in one, although that was a pass interference call on Cameron Brate in the end zone that was questionable. It's going to happen. But still, this game back and forth, Tampa Bay had to keep throwing punches, and Leonard Fournette landing that last punch, even though there was a kick return after that by Isaiah Rodgers that still gave Wentz a bit of a Hail Mary chance at the end. Indianapolis never say die. In a season like this, that's just been so, watch what you ate when you go on this ride at the State Fair, because you might end up with it all over your clothes by the end of the ride.
Right.
Tom Brady is a good quarterback to have, right? Bruce Arians is a good coach to have. These guys have seen everything.
Yeah.
They've been through everything. They're giving this team that steady rudder as the emotional ups and downs that seem to waylay so many other teams. And this is also the mark of a Super Bowl champion, the mark of a team that's been there and done that. And Indianapolis sees not a team that's been there and done that. Carson Wentz actually isn't a quarterback who's been there and done that. Nick Foles has. So you really see that in these games because they've lost games where they play straight up with good teams. They throw haymakers, they land big punches, absorb big punches, and they're still there at the end of the game, and they find a way to lose.
What did Jimi Hendrix say? Are you experienced?
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's where that steadiness comes from Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. And the problem with Carson Wentz is he thinks he can do that.
Right.
There's a difference between thinking you can hang and knowing you can hang. And we saw it on the field today. The Colts side of things, Wentz, 3 touchdowns, 2 INTs, 27 of 44 passing, 306 yards today. Jonathan Taylor, only 83 yards and a touchdown on the ground, only 4 for 14 as a receiver, if that counts. T.Y. Hilton was back, 4 for 28 and a touchdown. Ashton Doolin, who nobody started, had the 1 catch for a touchdown and 62 yards. And Jack Doyle, 6 for 81 and a touch. Pittman, 4 for 53 in this contest. You want a little bit more there. And the Colts, again, Bloom, throw some haymakers, land some punches. Don't win.
Yeah, for a little while, it looked like they were going to control this game. Jonathan Taylor gets shut down early. When you hear he had 83 yards, now most of that came on one drive in the fourth quarter when it seemed like it was his time to take over, and it was. He falls a few yards short of going over 100 scrimmage yards, where he would have added a 9th game to that 100-plus scrimmage yards and a rushing touchdown streak. Early on, there's some troubles. Zach Pascal with a fumble. Pittman was open in the red zone, and Wentz missed him. They had to settle for a field goal. But then you saw things start to work. There was the Ashton Doolin plays. Sean Murphy-Bunting just couldn't run with him and Wentz threw a beautiful deep ball, a perfect deep ball for a long touchdown. You saw Jack Doyle making plays in this one, becoming a favorite target of Carson Wentz. Now, again, against Houston, they may only pass 15 times. They went to the passing game in this one, and for the most part, Wentz was good on a 2-minute drill. He has scrambles. He has throws to T.Y. Hilton for a touchdown. Then you start to see this game turns. You know him, Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett makes a sack strip in the early second half. And this is the Bucs. They know someone's going to come up with something. Then tell me, this doesn't make sense, Cease. You throw a deep ball downfield for Michael Pittman, and Antoine Winfield skies over Pittman to make an interception that any defensive back or any wide receiver would be proud of. You can't put that one on Wentz. I think when you're Michael Pittman, you have to play the ball in the air so that Antoine Winfield can't go over top of you to get it.
There are times, and Pittman was one of my favorite players when he came to the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
And little corners were just dogging him all day. And there are times when he does use his size bloom, and you're like, that's the Michael Pittman I love.
Right.
And then there are other times in the play that you describe where he's just like, dude, you're Michael Pittman.
Yeah, use that size. Jonathan Baldwin-esque on that one. And then there was Naeem Hines muffed a punt on a fair catch. Defense held him to a field goal after that. But you have 5 turnovers. You aren't going to win when you have 5 turnovers. Cease, they had 5 turnovers, and they were this close. At the end, if they had had a play or two go their way, they still might have overcome that. So on one hand, I look at the AFC. I look over the AFC, Cease. Who do we really have to count on? Week to week, doesn't seem like there's anybody in
New
a
England,
one game.
maybe?
And we'll talk about that. So this is a Colts team that they're right on the fringe of the playoffs right now, but they're a playoff quality team, and they've played good football against a lot of other playoff quality teams, and yet they still sit here wondering where their season's going to go. Next week it's going to go to Houston, and hopefully they can at least take care of business there.
Yeah, well, you don't want to face them in the playoffs, Bloom. One of two things. One, they'll beat you because they can. Or two, you'll have to exhaust everything to beat them.
Right. And next week you're going out.
That's why you don't want to face Indianapolis if they make it to the postseason. Now, some games we can do in one fell swoop.
Sure.
And I feel like that with Atlanta and Jacksonville just because it's Atlanta and Jacksonville. But 20-14, the final score. And Cordell Patterson makes my heart sing. 2 touchdowns, 100 yards rushing, 27 yards receiving. Russell Gage gets a touchdown, 6 for 62. Kyle Pitts, 2 for 26. Looking at the Jaguars side, James Robinson did have 86 yards on the ground. No one started Laquan Treadwell. No one got the Tavon Austin touchdown. Right. So again, let's just do this in one fell swoop. But it was Atlanta getting the win, Bloom, the big win over Jacksonville.
Yeah, we saw. Well, see, you want to sum up this game. It is one. Jacksonville does well to keep themselves in a good top 5 draft position. Like the cartoon, right? The damsel in distress. We're all the damsel, and the distress is everything this fantasy football season's causing us. And then there's Cordero Patterson, my hero. Oh, you've come to save me, right? I love that for fantasy football, people who picked up Cordero Patterson were rewarded all year. And this week, with him coming in as a game time decision, you thought, well, am I going to play him? If you played him, wow. You were rewarded. And see, he's hurt. You can tell when a player is playing hurt. He's hurt. He's not 100%. You can see it. And he's still balling out. Love Cordero Patterson. He is now, with this season, I think, elevated to the all-time Audible cult hero list with this game. That means Kyle Pitts is the focus of the opposing defenses. So you keep going to play him. Next week against Tampa, by the way. You're going to play him. But I don't know what you're expecting. Russell Gage, who's becoming the number 1 receiver for this team with Calvin Ridley out. You're probably going to play him against Tampa Bay. We'll see otherwise. This was against Jacksonville's defense. And on the Jacksonville side, I wonder if they have, well, first of all, they haven't scored many touchdowns on offense, or period. But is this the highest percentage of touchdowns for a team in any given year that aren't in fantasy lineups? Because like you said, every week it's just wasted touchdowns. You did see James Robinson get benched briefly after a fumble, or I don't even know if he was really benched. They just wanted to give him a chance to clear his head. Came back in, looked decent in the second half. Trevor Lawrence had an end zone interception. See, you get used to in the NFL when backup quarterbacks are in or third-string quarterbacks, and you see bad interceptions, You see interceptions where you're just thinking, I have no idea how a rational mind could have thought that was a good place to throw the ball.
You see Drew Lock play football.
Right. Right. So there you go. We're comparing Trevor Lawrence to Drew Lock if we're talking about the worst interception of the day, and Zach Wilson. So that's one list that Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson made that Wilson or Lawrence don't want to be on. Jacksonville goes to face the Rams next week. Well, the Rams need a winnable game. Hopefully they can convert it next week.
Yeah, we'll get to the Rams in just a little bit, but we got to talk Panthers and Dolphins, huh? Because that one was a barn burner for Miami. 33-10 the final score. Cam Newton, I'm back to what? Not playing good football? Okay, he's back. PJ Walker comes in, 3 picks between the two. Newton with a couple. DJ Moore at least did something, 4 for 103. Robbie Anderson 1 for 15. That's a stinker. Christian McCaffrey stinkerish as well, 10 for 35. And then no receptions for Christian McCaffrey. How many times in his career have we ever said that? On one target, by the way, and then a rushing touchdown for Cam Newton as well. So Carolina had some energy, some spice, Bloom, and now your stomach is upset.
Yeah, this is eerily reminiscent of last year. By the way, these two teams have the same record at the end of this game. The Panthers and the Dolphins have the same record at the end of this game. Were the Dolphins like 1-6 or 1-7 a few weeks ago? And the Panthers, this is crisis, right? This is dire straits. You gave Newton $4.5 million guaranteed. He's going to make this team competitive. The defense was playing well. Cam Newton played well on a couple of plays, then played even better in a full game. You're thinking, okay, we're getting something going here. And just like last year, the bottom drops out. He looked horrible in this game. He looked like he had no idea how to complete passes in this game, except sometimes really terrible decisions for interceptions early on. You did see Cam get the rushing touchdown early, and he got the second and third downs after Christian McCaffrey got a direct snap on 1st and goal. But then again, bad interceptions to Holland and Howard. You gotta love this secondary for Miami that is really coming on now. PJ Walker came in for a little bit. He wasn't any better. It doesn't matter. Christian McCaffrey seen in a walking boot after the game. Didn't really play in the second half. Not known for his fast healing ability, Cease. And what's David Tepper going to do? Are you going to fire everybody? You know? You're going to pound on the table and yell? I mean, in some ways, having this overreacting, lurching left and right, just trying to do something, anything, is maybe not helping this team. It feels like they're spinning their wheels. And for Miami, see, we look on that side, again, the stories with these quarterbacks up and down week to week. With Tua, here he is with a 70+% completion, and now they've got a winning streak going, and now he's got confidence. Now you see him at the podium after the game season. He looks like a team's quarterback. He's holding himself like I'm the quarterback. This is my team. Maybe everybody was writing him off too early, especially his team. As he was steady, this team was steady, and if we just look at the last month of the season, this is a fringe playoff quality team, and maybe they'll be in the mix yet.
Zeeb64 says, waddle on, my wayward son. To that I say double true. And Tua's out there. Shame on the Dolphins for, I mean, maybe they, and here's how coaches' egos work, Bloom. They'll be like, This worked out. Our plan worked out perfectly. Like, no, you guys wanted to replace him. You'd flirt with anybody, Deshaun Watson, whoever. Like, this was put on them as, okay, we're just going to move on. Tua's our problem. No, he's not. Certainly, 27-31, 230 yards, a touchdown, no INTs. Touchdown to Jalen Waddle, who did everything, 9 for 137 and a touch. Durham Smythe 5 for 32. Mike Gesicki 3 for 17. Philip Lindsay doesn't know what he's doing yet. He had 12 for 42. Myles Gaskin knows he better get it done or else he'll get replaced by Philip Lindsay. So he had 16 for 49 and 2 touchdowns on the day. A couple of catches there as well. So Miami playing with confidence, playing swarming defense. Their running game is coming together, kind of. I mean, they had a commitment to the run. They weren't overly successful in terms of yards per carry. But they did it, Bloom. They got the big win.
Yeah, they did. And this team could get something going now. Early on, Brian Burns had a nice sack. By the way, Brian Burns on the Panther sideline, he's the one yelling. He's the one firing people if he could. He's certainly fired up and playing about as good as anybody is playing for the Panthers. You get a Dolphins block punt touchdown that really started opening the floodgates here. You had an interception by Cam that Waddle followed with a touchdown. Waddle had a long catch and run. It was beautiful, and it was the hyper-accurate throw by Tua Tagovailoa setting up the big catch and run, and Gaskin gets the finish there. There was one point where Tua was actually putting together a pretty good 2-minute drill cease at the end of the first half, and then a snap went over his head, and that's how Carolina got a field goal. I mean, that's the kind of things it took for Carolina to be able to get a field goal in this game. There was one drive that was helped along by Hassan Reddick, taunting penalty. Yeah, that's not one of my most essential subjects, but like you said, Lindsey got some run in the second half, so maybe we'll talk about him on the waiver wire show. And this team is on a roll, and they can keep this going because they're facing the Giants. And how bad is it for Philly fans, Cease, that the Giants can suck next week against Miami and actually hurts the Eagles? As remember, the Eagles are holding that first-round pick for the Dolphins that isn't looking so valuable now.
Not looking as valuable as it once was, like the Tennessee Titans. Oh, boy. Okay,
Aye.
Tennessee.
Dios mío.
36-13, the New England Patriots beat up on the Tennessee Titans. Ryan Tannehill, only one interception, but also only 93 yards passing. Now, Dontrell Hilliard, 12 for 131 and a touchdown, and Dante Foreman, 19 for 109. Okay. So they ran the ball for almost 300 yards.
Right.
When do we ever hear of a team that runs for almost 300 yards and gets their ass kicked?
Yeah.
Not that they lost. They got their ass kicked. Like, handed to them. Here you go, platter. That looks mine. Oh, that's mine.
That is. Ouch.
There you go. Serve it up to you. Nobody in the passing game did anything. I mean, Nick Westbrook-Akine, if you started him, had a touchdown and 2 for 25, but just a remarkable turn of events. New England side's very, very interesting, but the Tennessee side is too, Bloom, because again, if you run for 300 yards, you're the one who was the ass kicker. Not this time.
Yeah, and you have to wonder, Cecil, if Belichick, as he does with his chess-type game planning, says we're going to give them the run because we know they can't convert in the pass when it matters. And that's exactly how this thing went down. And it was just miscues. And the Titans have lost so many games this year. Now, against bad teams, they lose them more narrowly. Against a good team, yes, the Patriots are a good team. This just doesn't work out. They were scratching and clawing in the first half. Cody Hollister making some plays. You had an 8+ minute drive. Westbrook-Akine with a touchdown. And you also saw Dontrell Hilliard and Dante Freeman. We got the Ravens going on right now. You saw them splitting the work. It was a really strange sequence. And this just shows you how hard it was for the Titans to come by points. Hilliard had a bad fumble. Foreman had a bad fumble in this one too. But Hilliard, I think it was almost interception. Kyle Van Noy, he's playing out of his mind right now. Almost does an interception. There's like 30 seconds left in the first half. Tennessee's on their own side of the field. They're trying to pass. They're trying to do something. Van Noy almost makes an interception. So now it's 3rd and 3, and there's like 20 seconds left on the clock. So they just do a draw play. See, it's the classic capitulation play. We're just going to do a draw play and go into the showers. Hilliard breaks a 68-yard touchdown. So I bet you Belichick's going to be like, there's going to be some players that are going to have to watch that play like 70 times this week.
Oh, yeah.
And they're never going to do those things again when they're in on the 2-minute defense. So, yeah, Foreman fumbled at the end of a 30-yard run. He had chances to score inside the 10. Then you saw a Ryan Tannehill interception. You know, there were ways this game could have been closer. They could have turned some of that production into points. But still, they basically lost. And like you said, Cease, they got beaten handily. This team's going into their bye, and they're a playoff team technically, mathematically, but they just look powerless to move the ball. So it's up to Todd Downing. It's up to this team to come together. They need a MacGyver plan, Cease, to get through the season and maybe, just maybe, get Derrick Henry back in the playoffs. Right.
I need a gum wrapper, an apple, and I made bongs out of less, bro.
Right. Do you have any belly button lint in there? Give me, come on, pocket lint too. All your lint, everybody.
That's a MacGyver smoker. That's like a scavenger smoker. You know we sell this. Anyway, don't get my mind on half-baked. Get my mind on mac and cheese. There you go, the munchies. 310 yards, 2 touchdowns, no INTs for Mac Jones. Both touchdowns to Kendrick Bourne, 5 for 61 and 2 TDs. Jacoby Myers, 5 for 98 in this one. Brandon Bolden, 4 for 54 as a receiver. And nothing as a runner. Yeah, there you go. Jonnu Smith, 349. Hunter Henry, 2 for 16. Ramondre Stevenson leads the way with 46 rushing yards. And then Damian Harris gets a rushing touchdown and 40 yards on the day. Also a catch there for Harris as well. So New England, it was just easy. And you see how this is weird, Bloom. I don't know if this sentence has ever been spoken on 16 seasons of the Audible.
Okay.
The Patriots were having fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And what you can see, Cease, and this is one where scouting gets it right, because what did we say about Mac Jones? He's pro ready. He's ready to take the plays from the whiteboard to the field. And you just see him executing the plays in perfect rhythm and with the right sequencing, the right progression, the right timing to make everything work. And it has a way of creating a positive feedback loop, right? Josh McDaniels draws up the play. Oh, Brandon Bolden's going to be leaking out of the backfield. We do misdirection. We see these plays like other teams, if they try to do two different kinds of misdirection, the timing's a little bit off and the quarterback gets sacked, right? Or the ball just gets broken up. But whenever the Patriots do it, it works. And everybody is buying in. This team's on a 6-game winning streak right now. And Matt Judon, who he was the one, by the way, he said that mac and cheese doesn't belong on the Thanksgiving table. Yeah. Another show. We did wonder about the backfield. Damian Harris. We did see Ramondre Stevenson get first and second and goal on one drive, but for the most part, it was Damian Harris. Ramondre Stevenson got in at the end for some nice carries to bulk up his rushing total. But I think going forward, it's kind of like how Zeke and Pollard were, where you may see that the number 2 running back has more juice than the number 1, but the number 1's still the number 1 because he's disciplined, because he's the incumbent, and Harris gets the touchdown late in this one. Tennessee was trying to hang in. The bend but don't break defense. They were holding the Patriots to field goals. You did see Mac Jones just slinging it and using everybody. Jacoby Myers, Johnny Smith, Brandon Bolden, Kendrick Bourne's tightrope touchdown with a broken tackle. How often do you see someone break a tackle and tightrope the sideline at the same time?
Yeah.
That was Kendrick Bourne on this one. So that signing's looking good, even if the Johnny Smith signing isn't. But the Matt Judon signing, this team is gelling on defense, around a good offensive line, around a quarterback who knows how to do his job. And we get the New England Buffalo showdown in prime time next week. A game that could eventually, or at least the series, because they have to play both of the games, decide who the number 1 seed is in the AFC.
But will we get what we really want, which is New England, Tampa Bay Super Bowl? Because it ain't going to be the Rams, right? They're playing at home.
No, or the Raiders.
Yeah.
Or the Chargers.
Or the Chargers.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. I'm avoiding one game. We'll get to the Steelers in a little bit. But let's do, how about this? Hot Eagles, Giants talk. Okay, and let's do this all in one fell swoop, and then we'll get to the God-blessed Steelers. 13-7, the Giants get the win, and Bloom, I'm falling asleep just reading this box score. So let's talk about it. 3 picks for Jalen Hurts.
Right.
They still ran the hell out of the ball, 208 yards, but they didn't win.
No.
This seems like the first time that combination hasn't worked, right? And hey, Jalen Hurts throwing 3 picks. It's kind of the reason why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So at first, the Giants defense was doing their own bend but don't break thing here. Or getting some 3 and outs. You saw 2 bad interceptions by Jalen Hurts in the red zone. Okay, you can't do that. You can't do that when you're the Eagles. You also saw Hurts starting to run a lot more. So we're all the way back where we started, Cease. Oh, it's run to set up the pass, high efficiency, pick your spots. No, now it's just Jalen Hurts is going to run and hopefully not make so many mistakes that the team can't win, right?
Chuck and pray.
Right, and a game, we saw it building momentum where last week when the running game was really working and Hurts scored 3 rushing touchdowns. So even though Hurts wasn't doing much as a passer, he was a massive fantasy asset. Now you see the floor. Now you see especially depending on what interceptions and turnovers are worth, but they still had a chance to win at the end. In fact, Hurts scrambled and kept the play alive, and Jalen Reagor just had to catch the ball. He might have scored. He certainly would have gotten tackled at the 1 if he had caught it, but he didn't. But they really didn't deserve to win this one. And this team was building a lot of momentum. By the way, these teams basically have the same record now. Philly 5-7, the Giants 4-7. That shows you where they are. Philly gets the Jets next week. Hey, Jason Garrett is fired. See, you know what they've been waiting for? Jason Garrett to get fired to run? The flea flicker to the tight end. Yeah, I've been waiting my whole life for this moment. I can finally run the flea flicker to the tight end. Yeah, it just looked like the same boring Giants offense, okay? You did see some more plays to Galladay. Darius Slay did a good one, knocking the ball away in the end zone. They were settling for some field goals. Saquon Barkley doesn't quite look like himself. He mentioned himself in terms of Space Jam. He's like, the aliens didn't take my powers. I still had a 32-yard run. I know it's still there. I got to get back, but he's not himself. This offense, we're back to, they had a good drive. They had a couple of good drives. So that's one to build on. Baby steps, a win. And again, they're going to Miami. Miami, the hotter team here. It's just, Jason Garrett, we barely missed you.
The Steelers aren't good.
No.
It is a Steelers show, and swept by the Bengals. 41-10. The Bengals are now 7-4. The Steelers are 5-5-1. Big Ben was back. It didn't matter. I mean, what do we want to talk about? The Pat Freiermuth touchdown was only touchdown of the day. 263 yards, couple of picks for Ben. Najee Harris 8 for 23. When you're down 31-3, you're not going to run the ball, and that was at halftime, by the way.
Yeah.
So, you this is what you get. Deontay Johnson, 9 for 95 on 14 targets. Chase Claypool, 3 for 82 on 8 targets. Freiermuth, as I mentioned, only 3 catches for Najee Harris, though. So you're just inept. It's it's like, all apologies to our Who fans out there for the old crowd, but like when Roger Daltrey sung at the Super Bowl, and I was like, why did they have the Who in the Super Bowl? Because Bloom, you and I are children of the 80s, but so I'm just like, the Who? Oh yeah, because of the Janet Jackson thing. They're still like, let's get some old rockers,
right?
And Roger Daltrey's out there and he can't even breathe when he's singing. Who are you? Like it's just pathetic. It's like what once was greatness, and now it sounds like that. It sounds like trash, garbage, awful. Well, that's the way I feel when I watch Ben Roethlisberger. So let's talk about the Steelers. Plenty to talk about with the Bengals, but with Pittsburgh, it's just like, Ben, you're done. Ben, you're done. You always need that 12:45 guy, meaning you're never going to stay out past 12:45. You need that friend that'll be like, whoa, 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 whoa. I got some stories, probably can't share them on this show, but like where I've had some friends at 12:45 be like, you don't want to make those choices.
Yeah.
So come with me. Ben needs that 12:45 guy to have been like, dude, you were just done. It's okay. You can retire. You're done now.
Well, he gets to play the Ravens a few times, right? But this should put to rest any idea the Steelers' scrappy team sneak into the playoffs. You never know. But the first time the Bengals have swept the Steelers since 2009, so it has happened in the Mike Tomlin era. I don't know if this stuck, Cecil. When it was 41-3, it was set up to be the worst loss by the Steelers since the 80s, speaking of being children of the 80s.
Wow.
I think it was the worst loss to the Bengals also since the 80s. So that lets you know where we're at. Steelers fans have been around long enough to remember the 80s, at least the second half of the 80s. Yeah, got Rod Woodson at least. Merrill Hodge. We're headed back. We're headed back in the Wayback Machine to that kind of team. A team that can maybe win with some defense, but not in this one. Eli Apple, reclamation project, picking off Roethlisberger, making some really good plays on the ball in the air, handling Chase Claypool, who had the Deontay Johnson catches, Pat Freiermuth touchdown, garbage time. Claypool had a garbage time catch, also kind of lost his cool. And that was it. Najee Harris, like you said, didn't do much in this one. So now you see his floor. If the Steelers just get blown out of the water, you just put him on mothballs. Don't use him up. And the Steelers are being reduced to scoring touchdowns to make it look not so bad. That's where they are in their trajectory right now. Well, let's try to score a touchdown so it at least doesn't look so bad on the scoreboard. And next week again, Baltimore coming to town. So enjoy that one, Ben. Your last home game against the Ravens.
Yeah, it's just bad. It's bad. On
and
the
let's
side,
just say Bengals. No, let's turn this over because, okay, see, I'm going to say it. We're recording. I'm still going to say it. I mean, I'm Western Pennsylvania born and bred, folks. I've shed a lot of tears, a little bit of blood over the Steelers. And going into this game, there's a story about two of my cousins, one chasing the other around with a butcher knife, argument over the Steelers. Anyway, I was kind of rooting for the Bengals on this one anyway. You just want to see the Bengals are building something. So let's see them turn this into something. Let's be optimistic because really from a football standpoint, there's a lot of reason for optimism for what's to come. Let's not focus on what has passed. Let's focus on what's to come.
Looking ahead to Joe Burrow, 1 touchdown, 1 INT, 190 yards in this one. T. Higgins with the touchdown, 6 for 114 and a touchdown. So much for all the, should I drop T. Higgins? Like, no. Jamar Chase, 3 for 39. Tyler Boyd, 2 for 13. Joe Mixon, 165 on the ground and 2 rushing touchdowns. By the way, Joe Burrow with the rushing touchdown. So once again, you get this type of game because they just go Mixon, go do everything.
Yeah.
Do everything. And he does everything.
He does.
And Joe Burrow benefits. The Bengals benefit from that.
Yeah, why do you take Joe Mixon in the second round? Why do you sign him to an extension? So at this time of year, you can do this. You can just have him pull the offense. Joe Burrow wasn't bad in this one. This wasn't like the Raiders win where they kind of drug him to the win. He made some good throws to T. Higgins. There was one point, I don't remember who it was on T. Higgins. It was a jump ball, like a 30, 35-yard jump ball to the end zone. And the Steelers' defensive back just had no chance. He was lucky he was able to still be standing as the ball arrived. He just looked like he was drowning and asking someone to throw him a life preserver as he's trying to guard T. Higgins with the ball in the air. Now, Burrow tried to go back to that again, and Minkah Fitzpatrick said, no. I know what you're going to do, and I'm going to intercept it. That was the one bright spot on the moment. The one moment the Steelers defense can remember. But you saw Joe Burrow, you saw him on a scramble, put his shoulder down. You saw him get in the grill of T.J. Watt, and they're all tangling with each other. So this is a leader. This is a team that's going to rally behind their guy, even though for fantasy, we see the blueprint is not going to be a Joe Burrow-friendly fantasy-friendly stat line, especially if the defense is playing well. Steelers had no answer for Joe Mixon. Again, the Steelers' defense used to be that hallmark. You're not going to be able to, you're going to be able to run the ball on the Steelers.
Yeah.
When you have a running back like Joe Mixon, especially. And Jamar Chase, well, look, they don't need teams. Again, what's the story we keep coming back to? Teams are adjusting. Jamar Chase, for just absolutely killing teams with those long touchdowns. Teams are taking that away. Okay, that's fine. Play two safeties high. We're just going to run Joe Mixon all day, and you can't do anything to stop us. And if you try to do something to adjust to that, guess what? We're going to then go back to Chase deep. Next week, team you got to watch, the Chargers. Yeah, we're probably going to see a lot more Joe Mixon as Cincinnati, again, gets on a winning streak, gets some momentum going. Maybe they can be the number one seed in the AFC after all. After the first time they got there, it put them into some sort of bad trip where they lost to the Jets.
Tripping balls. How about the Keanu kiss for Cincinnati?
Yes.
Do I need a sorry Joe for tripping? Anyway.
No.
Yeah. We're all adults. Well, some of us. Anyway, Keanu kiss for Cincinnati, but every day.
Yeah.
Vic Fangio's defense. Now the learner has become the master. Or wait, no, it's the master still, and the understudy. Brandon Staley, you got some things to learn, including Justin Herbert don't choke the game away when Drew Lock almost chokes the game away. 28-13. Oh, my God. You're telling me the Denver Broncos won? Yes, I am. In this crazy NFL season, would you believe? Now, with more Broncos talk, the Broncos win 28-13. The Chargers, Herbert, it was one of those days. 303, there's a lot of garbage time. But, oh, my God, the time of possession. Now, the second half, it ended up like 18-12, something like that, roughly, Bloom. But the first quarter, out of a 15-minute quarter, it was like 13 and a half minutes Broncos. The Chargers just didn't touch the ball. They went 2 3-and-outs. Justin Herbert has never had 3 3-and-outs to start a game. Did you know? And he didn't in this one either because he had Keenan Allen, I believe, on a big play on a 3rd and 15.
Right.
And he picked it up. So Herbert was starting out, but they just didn't have the ball as much. Herbert was the leading rusher. They don't run that ball that much. But you saw Herbert out there to run around, scramble around. Austin Eckler's return to Colorado. Eaton won the title, the state title, Bloom, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there you go. And 6 for 68 and a touchdown as a receiver for Austin Eckler. 4 for 36, 12 for 31 as a runner. Keenan Allen, 7 for 85 in this one. Mike Williams, 4 for 39. That's his whoopee. Jared Cook, 2 for 25 and a touchdown. Could have had another one on a target. But Pat Surtain would not leave Justin Herbert alone. Pat Surtain kept picking on Justin Herbert's, whether it was tips and overthrows, got to get those, or it was just a straight interception. When I think Herbert was just throwing off his foot on the run, and he just didn't put enough air under it because Cook could go up and make a fight for that 50-50 ball. But it was Surtain that made the big plays, and it was the Broncos that get the win. But let's talk about the Chargers side and what was a bad day at the office.
Yeah, and Justin Herbert, I guess it's just opponent sensitive, right? Against the Steelers, especially without Watt and Fitzpatrick last week. He was magnificent. And, well, if it wasn't for a Drew Lock terrible interception, that was when Eckler got his touchdown. What would this offense have really done today? Yeah. So, yes, Keenan Allen's going to get his because he gets open. He's a high percentage target. You did see Jared Cook caught one that was basically a Hail Mary. So that's your other a Hail Mary, and Drew Lock came in the game. That's how the Chargers scored in this game. Okay, that's how this offense was, and we thought this was going to be a good offense. Maybe against certain defense coordinators, sees the unwillingness to put a lot of downfield passing out there. Because what was it that was the hallmark of why we were so impressed with Herbert? His downfield passing, his deep passing. Well, if Joe Lombardi's taking that out by design, if you look at the scatter plots where his targets are, so you look over the last few weeks, and all of a sudden this is a dink and dunk offense. Matthew Stafford somewhere nodding, saying, yes, that's Joe Lombardi. Maybe that just makes it too easy for aggressive defenses to win against Herbert. And we wanted to see this team with Brandon Staley and Justin Herbert take a step forward, get into the playoffs, maybe do something. Next week, again, they're going to Cincinnati, kind of a pre-playoff game, certainly one that's going to show us who's in playoff form as we enter the month of December.
As we enter the Broncos conversation on this, and it's like Brandon says, so torn because you want your team to win, but you also want the staff fired. As soon as they're not in playoff contention, there will be changes made, maybe even season, depending on how long they can stretch it out. But you have 7 games left, now 6. You needed to win at least 5 of those, now 4, to have a shot, because you get 5 wins, then that's 10 wins total on the season for the Denver Broncos. Are they going to get 10 wins? Probably not. They face the Chiefs in prime time next week, Bloom, a game that was flexed. Only to disturb our recording schedule. Only. And by the way,
don't they know about the Audible?
I know. Come on, NBC, primetime, Carrie Underwood. Shout out to Carrie Underwood, by the way. And shout out to Scott Sheriff, your keyboard player, who listens to the show.
Oh, yeah.
You never know
What's
who
up,
listens.
Scott?
Yeah. Scott's a good guy. Good dude. Talented musician. I love musicians that just can do it all. Yeah. Scott's one of those dudes. Anyway, hot Carrie Underwood talk done to now talk about why isn't Javonte Williams doing more? 14 for 54 and a touchdown. Okay. But 3 for 57 as a receiver. And every day, every week, Bloom, there is a play. There is a play every day, every week where Javonte does something spectacular, something phenomenal. Something that makes you go, why isn't he the lead back? And then they're like, Melvin Gordon, here's the ball. And they do this committee thing. And, Javonte will rip off a big run. Then they get in the red zone. They're in the 5, and it's Javonte time. And Gordon gets 2 runs. And then I think it was one of the throwing touchdowns of Salbert, right?
Right.
So, okay, why isn't Javonte in? Seriously, it's just this moronic staff. With 17 for 83 for Gordon's. Gordon's playing good football when he holds on to the ball, but Javonte with that 42-yard pass play and catch and run down the sidelines. Another big play from Javonte, who does criminally underused. So, yes, Drew Lock comes in, and I put it out on Twitter, and then, of course, the Lock stands. I've never seen a bad quarterback have this many fans. I don't know why. I have no idea why. Sometimes with major college programs, Ohio State or whatever, it's my guy. I don't care if Dwayne Haskins sucks. That's my guy, and I will go Buckeyes. Or name some Wisconsin guy that's not Russell Wilson, right? No. College fans are the absolute worst. I don't know what it is. I mean, I'm paying a bunch of money to Oregon State and Washington State. I don't root for those teams. I don't, it's maybe my kids will forever and ever and ever. But please, for the love of God, if you went to Mizzou, it doesn't mean Drew Lock's the greatest of all time. He still sucks. And so, I put it out on Twitter, have you not seen enough? And Teddy Bridgewater can't walk, right? He can't walk, and the Broncos are put him back in the second half. And he does, and he hands off the ball, and he makes enough plays. And Teddy's not the answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're a Lock stan and you get mad at me because I point out that Drew Lock absolutely sucks, well, let me preface it by saying this. Teddy Bridgewater sucks as well. He just sucks less. Okay? And he can spell sucks, and I'm not sure. Anyway, I don't want to be personal. I don't want to be personal.
No,
it's never personal.
No.
And I've gotten enough phone calls this year. I just don't care. Keep calling. I'm not going to
keep
answer.
a log. Keep a log of why you get a call for every single one. And at the end of the season, let's just do a show where you read off. Really, what you should do is record the calls and keep transcripts. Use that automatic transcript service, and then we could have some folks, some amateur actors, play out each one and just release them as episodes.
Why did you say this was a garbage staff? Because it's a garbage staff who happened to get a win today.
Yeah, a great transition. And like you said, it's Kansas City next week, right? So if they really go to Kansas City and win next week, then I mean, maybe this whole staff's going to buy themselves another year. They're going to be in first place in the division if they do that.
Yeah.
So you're in first place in the division after week 13, and you got to win on the road against Kansas City. I mean, it feels like this is a fraudulent team, but they didn't look like a fraudulent team in this one. And they have some things. They have Vic Fangio's defense, even when you're changing the personnel out. You are getting Bradley Chubb back. Maybe he'll, be healthy. Teddy Bridgewater can do enough to. He's a true game manager. But you saw nothing in the passing game, as it should be. This really should be. And Melvin Gordon is playing better, as you pointed out at the beginning of the year, Cease. But it is Javonte Williams that lights the fuse for this team, lights the fuse for your fantasy team. Even as they insist on this committee, he may defy it for fantasy. We may have to start recommending him. Maybe we should have, honestly, been more hearty recommending him against the Chargers, even though the bad part of the scenario where they still did a split came true. We'll see what they do against that resurgent Kansas City defense. Kansas City defense next week. Teddy's obviously hurt. How badly do they not want to play Drew Lock? I mean, really. So we'll see, Cecil. And again, this is another episode of Cecil Covers. And by the way, you invented a word. You did something really good too when you did that into the camera like that. That was good. I like that. I think you invented a word without realizing it, Cecil. And Javonte Williams is so good that he inspired you to accidentally invent a word. You ready?
What is it?
Spectacular. So spectacular that you just spit out whatever that you're at the time. He's spectacular, and he really is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my sister Carrie would tell you I made up words my entire life. So there you go. You can go to Kansas City and beat the Chiefs. You can do something. Beating a Chargers team that regularly, trips all over their own feet. It's like their shoelaces are tied together.
Exactly.
It's that. That's what it is. Anyway. Now I'm thinking back to the times when I had my shoelaces tied together as a youth. Those bus pranks, man. Like we used to tie shoes together, like climb under the seats.
Yeah.
When kids were sitting there and tied their shoes together or tied to the pole of the seat. And then kids got savvy to us doing that. So we'd climb underneath the seats and we'd take their shoes.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
See, what I remember, Cease, and I'm going a whole different direction with this. Sometimes, so there was a Catholic school in Bentleyville. Okay. And sometimes we would take field trips together. And the Catholic school kids were savages. One time at the Buell Science Center, they pushed the meteorite, like the 500-pound meteorite, like off of its perch and broke it.
Oh my God!
They used to bend paper clips back so that the 2 points, and they could take them and pull them back and shoot them out the windows. And try to shoot them into other cars, open like side windows. Try to hit the drivers. They would do like a red alert and all go to the same side of the bus at the same time, and you would just hear on the car that was parked next to the bus at the stoplight, like. They're like, man. So yeah, the buses. It was you learn a lot. You learn a lot on the playground. But the bus is an underrated place where you learn some stuff too.
Oh yeah. And if Carrie was here, I'd embarrass her with her bus stories. I think Dad took her car away from her one time when she was a senior, so she had to ride the bus home. And some poor kid, Donald Courier, was sitting in the back seat, the very back, which was Carrie's spot.
That's
Carrie
her spot. Yeah. Everything. Why are you calling me Dad while you're punching me?
Donald was like a 7th grader.
Oh man!
Oh my God! Yeah,
it's a Bronco show.
Growing up in the country, where we played tag with cars, we called it ditching. Just lucky to be alive, people. Yeah. Every day, there's the transition I was looking for, because we got to talk about the Rams.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Hey, dream team. I mean, respect for making the moves, but when it's just not working, like, what are you doing? 36-28, the final score. Green Bay beats up on the Rams. Matthew Stafford, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT. the touchdowns go like this: Van Jefferson 3 for 93 and a touch, Odell Beckham Jr. 5 for 81 and a touch, Darrell Henderson 4 for 18 and a touch as a receiver, 16 for 55 as a rusher, Cooper Kupp 7 for 96 in this one, and then Higbee didn't do anything. No. So that was your group of receivers that did something. They had an 11-point fourth quarter, but it seemed mostly like garbage time. Yeah. Bloom, tell me if you think differently. Of course, I'm dialed into the Broncos game, but like Rams, again, like we love when teams do these type of things, but it's just not working. You got time, but we haven't seen it work like at all
for a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a long bomb to Van Jefferson, 79-yarder. There was a long bomb to Odell Beckham. But this offense wasn't really sustaining anything. It doesn't seem like what Sean McVay has dialed up is putting defenses on their heels or otherwise putting them in binds anymore. There was something that came out this morning. Oh, Matthew Stafford's really banged up coming out of the bye. He's got this injury and that injury and this injury. Maybe setting us up for this failure just for him not to look too good in the cold. I don't know. But this is a Rams team, and this is the nature of the NFC, that a lot of these teams, elevators going up, elevators going down, like ride the escalator up, ride it back down, ride it back up, ride it back down. Every now and then you try to run up the down escalator. That was fun. Cooper Kupp almost threw a touchdown to Van Jefferson in this one. That was fun. But this Rams team, it's almost like, we were expecting this team can at least get into the playoffs and then probably disappoint the dream team. Now you're wondering if they're even going to get to the playoffs with the trajectory they're on right now. And as goes Matthew Stafford, so goes this team. And even though he made a few good downfield throws, which is why Sean McVay wanted him, it still didn't make a difference. It didn't make a difference in part. And by the way, they play Jacksonville next week. So hopefully, you can get Jacksonville, at least get back on track against them. But the other side of this equation, Cecil, is you have all these guys, right? Leonard Floyd, Aaron Donald, now Von Miller, right? It doesn't matter. It's easy to move the ball on this Rams defense.
Yeah, and that's what Aaron Rodgers did. 307 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. TDs go to Randall Cobb for 95 and a touch, and then A.J. Dillon 5 for 21 and a touch as a receiver. 20 carries for 69 yards. So again, when people say run to set up the pass, it's the intent to run. They're averaging 2.9 yards a carry as a team. It's the intent of running that sets that up, not the actual success of the run. It's weird. It's like observing the particles, Bloom, and then when you split them, right? And if you don't observe them, then they're all over the place. And then you observe them, and they go through the slots like you're supposed to.
Yeah.
No. It's the intent of running the ball. It's not the actual. There's only 2.9 to carry. Yeah, it doesn't matter. They ran the ball that set up the passing. Devontae Adams 8 for 104, 4 for 50 for MVS. So if you started him as a what the heck flex, you'll take that to be sure. But it's certainly Dillon and not Jones. Chat room was going off on Aaron Jones, kind of screwing him over earlier.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, even if Aaron Jones is as healthy as he was, when he was 20 years old at UTEP, still A.J. Dillon's the guy you want closing out the game. And I guess I shouldn't say it was easy to move the ball against the Rams because the Rams were somewhat stout against the run, but eventually they wore down, and Aaron Rodgers just looked good. Don't worry about that toe. Man, do not worry about that. And look, they were set up. There was a pick six in this one by Stafford. There was a Rashawn Gary playing outstanding football, forced a fumble that got a touchdown. But Rodgers was slinging it. He was slinging it to Randall Cobb, setting up run after catch opportunities. Now Cobb left with an injury in this one. So, there was one bomb to Marcus Valdez-Scantling that he could have got, another one that he did. Rodgers just looks like he's locked in. He looks like he did last year on his MVP march, where he's making optimal decision, optimal throws. He's extending the plays. You can tell that he's calm, but he's also like a crossbow that is loaded and ready to let it go at any second when he sees it and lead his receiver perfectly. So everything's lining up for this team. And unlike the AFC, Cease, where we're seeing the crabs in a bucket, as soon as the team starts to come up, everyone pulls them back down. It's really Green Bay and Arizona emerging. And remember, Arizona lost to Green Bay, a game that they could have, should have, would have won. It was also the game that Kyler Murray got hurt at the end of. But Arizona, if they'd won that game, I think would be handily in control of the NFC. But because Green Bay won, Green Bay found a way to win. It's kind of a two-horse race right now. But Green Bay continues to notch these wins against good teams and win in different ways, show their defense, their running game, their quarterback, And they get a Week 13 bye. So everyone gets to rest. Aaron Rodgers gets to rest that toe. And it's good. By the way, this morning I asked Dr. Gene about the toe. He said, my mom told me if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Sounds like Dr. Gene. But the Week 13 bye, you get the Keanu kiss.
Yeah.
As you get ready for the rest of the season. We got one more game to go here on the Audible, and it's outdoing each other, right? When you're the Spider-Man meme pointing at each other, and you're like, I'm better than you, but I'm the same thing. Vikings and 49ers. That's kind of it. 34-26, 49ers get the win. They're 6-5. Vikings now 5-6. Kirk Cousins, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT, 238 yards passing. The 2 touchdowns, both of them to Adam Thielen, 5 for 62 and 2. Justin Jefferson, 4 for 83. Dalvin Cook, 6 for 64 as a receiver, and then 10 for 39 as a runner. Alexander Madison, as that what the heck flex, gets a rushing touchdown in. And Dalvin Cook, after losing the fumble, immediately looks like he's hurt. So kind of the story we get with Dalvin Cook whenever that happens.
Yeah, the Vikings are the Colts of the NFC, right? We know they're good enough to play with everybody. Every single game they play has been close this year. 6 of the games have come down to the last play. They still may not make the playoffs because they lose games like this. And it was Kirk Cousins. This one's on Kirk Cousins. Like in clue terms, Cease, it was Cousins with the bad interception in the red zone. That's what killed the team this week. What could it be next week? Well, hopefully not next week. We'll get to that. But maybe in honor of Jason Garrett getting fired, Cease, the Vikings trotted out their own flea flicker. They even had one where Jefferson threw the ball to Cook. Let's get crazy. And it seemed like maybe this Vikings offense was really starting to spread its wings. And you had a 4th down. They went for it on 4th down and goal, and Thielen caught a touchdown. All these things were starting to look, hey, this is going to be a fun back and forth fight. But Kirk Cousins' mistakes were too much to overcome. And there was also the Dalvin Cook fumble and the injury fumble when the player basically lets the ball go on the way down to the ground. So that's not good. He rode the card off for a shoulder injury. You don't see that very often. He was probably in a lot of pain. We'll find out more about that. Alexander Madison, potential league winner. We'll see. Certainly next week as Minnesota tries to win a game, maybe not a close game, against the Detroit Lions.
Against the Detroit Lions. 49ers side, it was all about Eli Mitchell and a dash of Debo, of course, as well. Jimmy Garoppolo. Was it who had it today? Rappaport?
Rap sheet, yeah.
Right. Like, hey, they're going to try to trade him next
after the
year.
Season.
Ooh, they're going to go with their
Right.
first rounder? Thank you, Ian, for that breaking news.
Novel plan.
By the way, because now I'm thinking, Ian, whenever the NFL Network guys come up here, there's a shotgun range in Brighton that they all go to, like even Rap Sheet and stuff. And it's cool. They have like urban settings where you can be in like buildings or an outdoor range where you can like skeet shoot or whatever. Because you mentioned crossbow, and I was like, I was going to ask you, Bloom, but I was like, you probably have never shot a crossbow.
No.
Those are incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
Like incredibly dangerous just to load.
Yeah.
Just to load. So, of course, got probably over in the corner. I could go
practice crossbow safety at home. Yeah.
Yeah. Practice crossbow safety at home. Anyway, let's talk about the 49ers. The 49ers safety at home. With Elijah Mitchell, there is no safety. 27, 133 and a touch for Eli. 5 for 35 as a receiver. Brandon Ayuk, 3 for 91. So it's working. Anakin, it's working. Juwan Jennings, 2 for 24 and a touch. Okay, George Kittle, 1 for 13. Oh. Deebo Samuel, Devil Get Out, 6 for 66 and 2 rushing touchdowns on the day for Deebo. And then 1 for 12 as a receiver. So, hey, man. If you get it done, you get it done. If Deebo turns into Cordell Patterson, I don't give a damn.
Yeah.
Is he winning? And Jimmy, with the news, goes out there, 230 yards, touchdown, and a pick. The news that he knew and everybody else already knew.
Yeah. And Elijah Mitchell, well, we know this. We're not going to get a lot of start-sit questions because when he's in, they are going to feed him as much as he can handle, and he's going to run with all the energy he has. He's going to leave it all out on the field. That was too much for the Vikings in this one, along with Deebo Samuel, too much for the Vikings. Samuel does suffer a groin injury in this one, so we're going to watch that. San Francisco plays Seattle next week. And that makes Brandon Ayuk better play. Not much from George Kittle. Okay, well, that happens. Garoppolo playing well, maybe not much of a fantasy force, as again, it's the running game, getting 3 of those touchdowns. You also had a pick 6 in this one. But, they're surging. Or wait, this was the game without a pick 6. The point is there were the bad decisions by Cousins setting up the offense in this one too. This team is surging. And this is a team, when what San Francisco does works, it looks like it's impossible for the other team to get off the field. So, again, potentially a tough out if they can make it to the playoffs. Got to beat Seattle next week if you really want to do that.
Got to do it if you want to make the run. And Seattle will be playing their Super Bowl next week, Bloom, because they're not going anywhere.
No.
That's right. It is a Star Wars show, so says Chris. So thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening to the Audible. And another wild and woolly week has wrapped up in the NFL. Bloom, final thoughts.
Did we start to see separation? I don't know. This was supposed to be when teams are going to separate themselves, right? I mean, I think Green Bay is separating themselves from some of the teams, or at least maybe. So here's the thing, right? Is Green Bay pulling ahead of the NFC, or are the Rams just falling back into the pack with the teams like the Eagles and the Giants that aren't very good teams? We continue to recontextualize every single week, and it's fun. And it's fun because of the individual stories these players give us. A player like Elijah Mitchell, players that are against the odds getting to this point and showing what they're made of. These quarterbacks like Tua Tagovailoa showing that belief in self. Teams that lose but are still among the most entertaining teams to watch every week, like the Colts and the Vikings. It's perplexing. Cease even makes your head hurt, makes you feel a little sick, makes you lose confidence in your ability to understand what you're looking at, but you can't look away.
Imagine if department stores had this like flashing when it was like that flash sale, right? Like, my God, now 50% off all socks every day. And somebody on Twitter, and I know I always make fun of Twitter because it's the realm of the lowest common denominator. But somebody asked me like to find that audio clip so that they could use it as a ringtone or their alarm, right? Like every day. And it's when he was talking about Garrett Bowles. The one thing about Garrett is he's there every day. So, yeah. And I was like, if you think you're a big deal on Twitter, well, let me remind you, I had a low member number on the X-Files chat room in the 90s.
Oh.
So, but Bloom, I love the way that you treat Twitter because you're very kind. And I don't want to speak out of turn. But you don't give a damn about the blue check mark.
Actually, at this point, there's a line from a Fish song. Everything I do to earn the title, but when they use it on me, I reject it. And yeah, at this point, I don't want the check mark. Don't try to give me the check mark. If the check mark is there when I go on Twitter tomorrow, I'm going to tell them to take it off.
Truly anti-establishment, Sigmund Bloom. I appreciate that about you, brother. I appreciate everyone out there for listening and for watching. Thanks for joining us here on this Football Guys journey. I don't know where the shop is yet. The chat room was like, "Where's the shop? I want to buy some Football Guys merch." Coming. Okay. I thought it was last Friday. Anyway, we'll definitely we'll be promoting it. We'll be talking about it, all those sorts of things. So it's all good in the hood. He is Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. The show is at the Audible. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying thanks. Stay tuned. And as always, stay frosty.